down, Karen.
Karen?
You're a goddamn Karen.
No.
Sit down.
Sir.
Sit down, Karen.
Sit down, pussy.
Ma'am.
Pussy, no, you're the pussy.
Oh, no,
Lie
you're
down,
the
man.
dick.
Ma'am, do you want the police to meet you on the ground?
What about him?
Mask up. Ma'am.
Mask up.
Put your mask up.
Mask
I'm
up.
eating and drinking. I'm eating and drinking.
Tell him to
You got
mask
your
up.
mask down, bitch.
Sir,
Yes, I did.
stop it again.
Now you're going to jail. That's assault. You're going to jail. As soon as we get in Atlanta, you're going to jail. Bitch. Karen. Hey, spit on me. Now you're double going to jail. Bitch.
You fucking piece of shit.
Piece of pussy. Sit down, Karen.
Fucking.
Sit down, Karen. Sit down, fucking Karen. Look, she punched me. She
Put your
smashed my
fucking
face.
mask on. Tell him to put his mask on. Put your fucking mask on.
And for the international order that we have worked for generations to build. Ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs. That order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign.
What is your duty, ladies and gentlemen? Do you have a duty, for instance, to get the boom shakalaka? Is it your responsibility to get jabbed to protect everyone else?
No, I mean, no.
You don't, because you don't want it.
As a young person, I don't believe that I need it, personally.
But you've had the vaccine.
I'm not answering that question.
Okay.
I don't think it's relevant to the discussion. However,
it's relevant whether I stand next to you in a lift
it's
in
not,
this building.
I mean, it's not relevant because I don't have COVID, and B, I'm young and I don't need it. And what
Being
people
young is not a get out of jail card.
It is
not.
It is
absolutely isn't.
And effectively, I'll just say that there's even talk of a fourth dose now, which has been said to it needs to be sped up.
It's a question
so
of whether
people get it
Nina
sooner.
has a right to ask you whether you've had the vaccine.
Now, to any sane person, that would seem like a perfectly rational thing to say. But it seems that in the 21st century, it is not only your duty to get jabbed, but it is your duty to disclose whether or not you've gotten jabbed, and for that matter, disclose whatever the government tells you to do. Is there anything that you should not be able to disclose? Well, if the government says it's okay to disclose that, it's okay, right? I mean, according to Obama, well, it is your duty to sacrifice your freedoms for the greater good. That's the new world order that we seem to live in, where your rights, your freedoms, your ability to dictate how you live your own life, if you are not directly harming anyone, no longer seems to apply, because everything we do now apparently affects everyone. Therefore, we have no freedoms in this new world order.
I don't think Nina does have a right now, because as we've seen, just factually now, the vaccine doesn't stop you from passing it on, and in some age
But
groups,
it minimises
specifically, it doesn't.
The thing is, if
For
you
certain
have the
age
vaccine,
groups.
you are less likely to catch it.
That's it.
If you're
No, that's
unvaccinated,
actually-
you're more likely to catch
I'm sorry, but there's data coming out now actually disputes that.
Look, all I can tell-
Repeatedly,
well, wait a
in
minute.
certain
All I
age
can
groups.
tell you
Can't
is
say
that
that.
Yeah, for
virology...
young-
Hang on.
Now, the interesting question raised here was, first of all, is it your right to not get the boom shakalaka? It's always interesting how people phrase questions like this. I mean, let's have a look at this question as clearly as we can. Well, inversely, it is my right not to be forced to take an experimental jab. Because the alternative would be that I don't have a right, and it is someone's right to forcibly inoculate me. And that would be tantamount to rape. If someone was able to forcibly insert a substance into my body because they deemed it to be a good idea, for whatever reason they thought, that would be rape. I had this conversation with a friend of mine, and he said, "Oh, look, that's just your perspective." And I asked him, that's not a perspective. If you force someone to do something, to have something put into their body, that's rape. It may be your perspective that is not a good thing. However, it is effectively rape. And this is the fascinating mental jiu-jitsu that a lot of people play in this game. Everyone wants to pretend that this is somehow your opinion, that if you force someone to be inoculated, that it's just a perspective that you think that is a good or a bad thing. No, Momo. That's effectively rape. Let's be very clear about this. I mean, granted, you could say that if I physically rape someone, that's just my perspective on whether or not that's good or bad, right? And there are some momos out there that would say, I mean, look, it's not necessarily a bad thing if you rape someone, because, look, you're not really harming them. You're just using your physical body on them. And, I mean, it's pleasurable for you, but it should be pleasurable for them. Yeah, Momo, but you're violating their consent, and you're sticking something into them that they would rather not have stuck into them, right? It's rape. And therefore, it is typically considered a bad thing, at least the last time I checked. Similarly, I don't think someone should be forcibly inoculated. But for some reason, we have gotten to this point where people are so effectively, surreptitiously manipulating speech and asking you this question: is it your duty to get the vaccine? Listen, if you want to do something because of the goodness of your own heart, you think it's a good idea, you think it's going to protect you and protect your family and your friends at large, you absolutely should do something like that. Is it your duty to do that? Well, duty meaning your obligation, meaning it's obligatory, it's a responsibility. Well, no. It would be my responsibility if I had some requirement, some duty of care. If it was my responsibility to protect every single person, it's not my responsibility to protect your health. In fact, it's not my responsibility to protect anyone for that matter. Of course, I can try to some extent. I can tell you guys to do lots of push-ups, to eat your greens, but none of you guys are probably going to listen to me, right? And that's your responsibility. Your responsibility to decide how you live your life. But it certainly is not my responsibility to protect you. All right? Let's get that clear. But for some reason, people are taking it upon themselves now to dictate what every single person must do in terms of protecting every single person. That's not how freedom works. That's not how justice works. And that's only how things work in a tyrannical society.
I don't know what you're trying to say, Dominique. Are you saying that I know less than you?
On this particular point, I think that a lot of people like you are, a bit...
People like me?
Yeah.
Who are people like me?
Well, you're in an echo chamber, unfortunately. So
I'm an echo chamber?
Yeah, so you're not exposed to different data, different scientific opinions. So
how do you know what I'm
exposed?
You have no idea what I'm exposed to and what information I get.
But you're saying things that aren't true, so that's
what things am I saying are not true, Dominique?
You said deaths are going up. That's the statistical.
I didn't say deaths were going up. I said that yesterday there were 165, and it actually had been static.
But
I did not say static.
We were making the point about whether,
as they were going
as
up.
guests on this
putting words in
show,
my mouth, and that is a lie.
Okay. You don't come that close to each other, possibly won't for the rest of the day.
We will.
But you're close enough that Nina may think she has a right to ask you about your vaccine status.
No, she doesn't, because if you're vaccinated, I'm assuming, so why does
I'm
my vaccine
protecting you
status
as much as I can.
impact you? You're not protecting me, though. If you look at transmission rates...
I am. Because I'm not just protecting myself with the vaccination. I am protecting you.
You're not. The vaccinated are still spreading the disease. Even in relation...
No, you are less likely to.
You're not. Right. In Waterford...
No,
I'm sorry. The statistics, real-world data doesn't show that. In Waterford in Ireland, where 99.7% of their adult population is vaccinated, they have had the highest case rates in the whole of Ireland. 99.7% adult population vaccinated.
I can't attest to that. I'm so sorry.
I can source it all. I can source it all. Seriously.
People can ask you whatever the fuck they want to ask you. If someone wants to ask me what I had for breakfast, the size of my long schlong, they have every right to ask me. But whether or not I divulge the information is another thing entirely. You're not entitled to know my boom shakalaka status. You know what's interesting, though, is that you can always tell whether or not someone has taking the boom shakalaka, because they tell you something like, well, that's none of your beeswax, or, well, look, I don't think you're required to know that information, right? I think that answer is very telling in of itself. Or they might tell you that they're a transvestite, unless, of course, they're me. It's got nothing to do with my boom shakalaka status. I actually am a transvestite, meaning that I identify that I've taken the boom shakalaka, taken the juice, even though I haven't. It's got nothing to do with whether or not I have, though. But the reality is, look, you don't have to disclose that information. Just because a government tells you that you have to disclose that information doesn't mean you have to. There's something called natural unalienable rights. And despite what people like Obama, people like Daniel Christ Andrews or Brandon will tell you, they are your unalienable rights, meaning that they don't ever change. And so much as I have the animating force of God working through me, I'm going to make sure that I don't allow these tyrannical douchebags circumvent my natural rights and somehow try to persuade the world that I don't have them, and then I have to do whatever they tell me to do because I'm putting them at risk. Ladies and gentlemen, freaks and geeks, give us a thumbs up if you like this video, thumbs down if you hated it. Be sure to click on the bell, tell your mom, tell your friends. Peace out, keep it real. Until next time, this is your chocolate Nubian soul brother, and be sure to put on a mask.
What is liberty?
What the? Who says you can't build muscle on a vegan diet?
What's it like being a hottie in the vegan community? There are no political solutions, only technological ones.
The economics of the system don't allow multiple competing systems to survive.
Engineering, technology, these arts of humanity, they are magic.